Well, good morning, folks. This is a fantastic Leading Your Best Life. Today, I'm talking to Andy Donaldson. Andy has been swimming around the world. Wait till you hear his story. Talk about leading his best life. Andy, welcome aboard to Leading Your Best Life.
Morning, Lee. How are you getting on?
Mate, fantastic. Last time we spoke was months ago now. You've done a lot of swimming around the world since we last spoke, yeah?
That's right. That's right. I mean, I think when we last caught up, I was about to take on a 30-kilometre swim from Rottnest Island here in Perth, back to the mainland, up the river to Elizabeth Quay to raise money for Telethon and the children around the state. So that's been and done. I'm still here. I still have all my limbs, and that was a great success. So that was one of the crazy adventures, I think, in the last 2 months since we last caught up.
Mate, fantastic. We'll get to those adventures shortly, but let's start because, folks, you can hear he's got an accent. It's an accent. We better dig down deep. And so, Andy Donaldson, what has been your journey? What is that accent? Where were you born? And what's been your journey to get to where you are at the moment? To give us an overview.
Whoa, geez, that's cramming 33 years into a few minutes. Well, off the start, as you mentioned, Lee, I'm not from here originally, not from Australia originally. I grew up in the west coast of Scotland. Life was good there. I got into swimming from a young age. It was always a big part of my life. It took me all around the world, competing for club and country. Got to the international stage. Swimming was one of the things that actually brought me here to Australia back 10 years ago. Swimming's a big part of the culture here. It's almost part of the fabric of being Australian. And my journey's had a lot of ups and downs in sport. It's like life. It's never a straight line, and I've been through many highs. I've been through lows and walked away from the sport for many years. But over the last 4 years, I found my way back to it and pursuing different types of goals, exciting ones that have taken me again around the world, but in this time in the form of marathon swimming and channel swimming and doing these swims across really large distances in very challenging waters.
Mate, you've summarised it, and you've been very humble there. But I'm going to go deep. Talking about go swimming, we're going to go deep today, mate. You think this is going to be an easy session, but no, we're going to go deep into the mind, into the crevices, into the locks of your mind, mate. So let's just talk about it. The west coast of Scotland. Which part of the west coast? Mallaig, Ullapool. Where on that west coast of Scotland?
I was not as north as those. I was actually in Ullapool 2 weeks ago.
Really?
Yeah, a beautiful part of the world.
A beautiful part. Well, our mutual good mate, Colin Braund, took my wife and I up there in the early 90s, way up to the Highland, out to the Isle of Skye. We had a fantastic trip to Scotland years ago.
It's such a beautiful part of the world, very rugged, and I love it there. But no, I grew up a bit closer to Glasgow, maybe an hour west.
Mm-hmm.
We were all encouraged to get into sport from a young age. Grew up in a very active family. The Donaldsons are always outdoors and doing things. And pool swimming was my thing. So 200-meter events as a pool swimmer. Open water wasn't really a big thing back then.
No, pretty cold. Although we do have a member of Pod Squad. We do have a member of Pod Squad that does run swimming tours into the locks just north of Glasgow.
Oh, you're kidding.
They're slightly loopy. Yeah. I've got to get he's a fantastic guy. But he's an ex New South Wales guy who now lives there and runs swimming tours in the locks, but he also then runs swimming tours to Greece and Croatia and the Mediterranean.
Well, I think I know which one I'd be signing up for.
Yeah, exactly. So just on that, I think once before you told me, as a family, you were very active. So your father and mother, what did they do in terms of the ecosystem, the Donaldson ecosystem? What happened there?
It was always a very supportive environment. They always encouraged us to pursue our passions, follow our dreams. Yes, we did do a lot of swimming and life outdoors, but we were also encouraged to invest in ourselves. Work hard at school, get an education, be smart, set ourselves up for life. My dad's Scottish, my mum's Asian. She's got a little bit of that tiger Asian mum where she's, like pushing her kids quite hard. Look, it's no one teaches you how to be a parent. That was her style, and
sure.
Look, I look back and it served me quite well. I went through school with straight A's, came away from university with the highest grades, went on and became a chartered accountant. So, I think it's we only live once, so let's make the most of the time that we have here and take the time to invest in ourselves, to educate, because it's going to serve you not well just through life in general.
Yeah, sure. So that she was a tiger mum. I mean, don't forget to talk about that. Tiger Woods had a tiger mum and dad as well. But and dad as a Scotsman was an engineer or an accountant. Those Scottish people often were very engineering or accounting driven kind of people. What did he do?
Yeah, he was a land surveyor originally,
Okay.
which brought him over to this side of the world, where he met my mother. Then got into IT when he went back to Scotland. So I think the main values they instilled on me were work hard, work smart, don't just work hard, and enjoy life.
Yeah.
Enjoy the little things, So good sort of. They instilled a lot of things in me that I'm very thankful for, and that hardworking ethic has always stayed with me ever since.
Yeah, great, mate. So let's talk about that. In terms of your pool swimming, what level did you aim for? What level did you get to? And I literally want to get to this point where you said you walked away. So let's talk about the highs and lows. What were some of the highs of your pool swimming? And then let's talk about some of the lows of the pool swimming.
Sure. So my goal was to reach my potential. That was how I used to summarize it. And I felt that was, making international teams, racing at Commonwealth Games, racing at the Olympics, and the 200 freestyle event. And I suppose for many years, every goal that I set, I achieved. I would set a target for the end of the year, whether that was hitting a certain time or a place at the national championships. I was able to succeed in that, but I got to maybe around the age of 19, 20 and started to plateau. And, I saw people that I was competitive with starting to overtake and go on and achieve these goals that I'd set for myself. And I had this block, and I couldn't progress. I couldn't lower my times. I wasn't making teams. I was seeing everyone else progress ahead of me, and I found that really hard. And one of the toughest things was the Glasgow 2014 Commonwealth Games, where again I fell short of achieving that goal, and it was tough. Swimming had been such a huge part of my life and my identity, and when things weren't going well, I felt it tough. The people around me didn't really know how to help in those moments. They would sort of shy away and didn't really know what to say. And you felt quite lonely and isolated, and when it was wrapped up with your identity, you felt like a bit of a failure. So those were some of the lows, and eventually in 2016 I ended up getting to a point where I thought, well, I've given this what I can. Maybe it's time to move on and focus on other areas of life. And look, upon reflection, I think it came back to, I don't think it was something I was doing in training. I don't think I I felt that I was training just as hard, if not harder, than everyone else that were going on to succeed in these goals and dreams of mine. I think what I lacked was the belief in myself.
Mm-hmm.
I think I lacked the belief in myself, and I'd never truly believed I was capable of that level. I targeted it, but when it came crunch time to go and perform, I would always fall short. And sport can be very brutal and cutthroat in that manner. You could train the house down for the entire year, but your entire season could be defined by 2 minutes of swimming. And if you're not mentally in the right space,
Mm-hmm.
and you turn up on that, turn up on the blocks, and you're not fully believing in yourself, you'll never allow yourself to actually go on and achieve those goals, and fall short. And then it's, it can be very black and white, which is a difficult thing with something like pool swimming.
So it sounds like, as you say, you fell into a black hole, because you touched on that, and you literally gave up swimming, or you stopped competitive. What happened there? Tell me about that trigger point.
Yeah, I kind of felt like I had nothing to give, and that I just didn't want anything to do with it, really. I felt that I'd dedicated so much of my life to it. I hadn't got what I wanted to out of the sport. I felt like I was falling behind in terms of other people focusing on their career and starting to build their lives and save up money for houses and settle down. So I felt like I needed to adjust and start pursuing that, get actually take more time to focus on my career, my accounting, save up money, do the done thing, get on the property ladder, and live life how everyone else was living it.
So what age were you at that point?
I was 25. So,
Right.
I was working as an accountant. I was also swimming. It was long hours, but the swimming had always been the priority at that point.
And where were you still? Were you over in Scotland still, or you're here in Australia?
I was here at this point. So
Right.
I'd moved over in 2013 from Scotland to here in Western Australia, and this was about
And what got you to
2016.
move? What got you to move from Scotland to Western Australia?
My older sister, Lee. So my older sister lives here in Perth, and she came home at Christmas time. I'd just finished up university, and she gave me a bit of a bollocking because I'd moved back in with my parents, and she's like, "You need to become more independent. Come out to Australia and see what you think." And so I moved out to Australia and moved in with her. So, but no, I went on and moved out and got my first job and started building my life here. And 11 years later, I'm still here. So it's
A
this
Christmas
is
bollocking,
home.
mate. A Christmas bollocking from your sister. We talk about crucial conversations, and clearly that was a crucial conversation in your life where she'd given you a bollocking at that point. And again, often we say it's often only people in close relationships, an intimate relationship, be it family or, wife, partner, or close friend, can actually eyeball you and have those conversations.
You need those people, like people that will actually call out your flaws or the things that you're doing that need to change.
Yeah.
And sometimes you get too comfortable, and they're the ones that hold you accountable.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'd say, what story were you telling yourself at that point in time? You see, in Mum's house, swimming, you were clearly feeling a bit low about the swimming. So whatever story was going on in your head, she challenged that story. We call
That's it.
we call it BS, belief system and bullshit, or bullshit belief system, bullshit stories, which, people can go 10, 20, 30 years with bullshit stories until someone, coach, sister, brother, lover, whoever, actually eyeball you and have those conversations with you. Let me just talk about that for a second. When you were training for that Commonwealth Games team or at that elite level, were there any people around talking to you about mindset, getting in the zone, meditation, any of those things at that point?
I don't think it was as prominent back then.
No.
And I know
No.
that's only 10 years ago, and
Yeah.
I think it was a lot more like work harder than everyone else,
Yeah. It's a
rather
physical thing.
than rather than working smarter.
Yeah.
And I look back, and hindsight's 2020, but I look back and I think if I just changed things up a bit and developed not just Andy the athlete, but Andy the person,
Mm.
I think I would have had a lot more success back then,
That's great. Well,
incorporating these things.
yeah, well, of course. Well, I
Hope,
mean, I've just run a series of sessions with our water polo club. We call it Kaizen Mindset, where I've
yeah,
gathered as much data and sports science as I can. And because these days is beautiful because it's all on YouTube. But there's Michael Phelps saying at the age of 13, his mother got him involved in visualization. And
yeah.
literally, he was meditating every night and visualizing where he wanted to go with his career, visualizing races. He was visualizing the race going well, the race going not well, the race going hard. Like, so he said, so by the time I got to the blocks, I was ready to handle anything.
He's already done the race in his mind 1,000 times.
Yeah, exactly. And so,
Yeah,
and you say, Michael Jordan says, I never played a game on the court that I hadn't already played in my head. And of course, the same thing there in belief. You look at Ronaldo. Ronaldo says one of my biggest asset is my mind.
yeah,
And Muhammad Ali, I was world champion long before I was world champion. I was world
yeah.
champion in my
Wow.
mind long before I was world champion. Well,
Yeah.
see, can you imagine someone saying that to you at that age, which is what I've said to the 12-year-olds and the 13-year-olds in the club,
Mm.
of which I think, 30 to 40%, some of it will stick, some of it will think it's the biggest load of bullshit ever. But for those that stick, but here you are now. Let's just talk about how did you'd stop swimming, and you told me this story. Someone got you back into swimming. What was what was the conversation that got you back into swimming, that got you into discovering long distance swimming?
Well, essentially, it's probably easiest to describe this chronologically. I walked away in 2016, spent the next 4 years focusing on my career. And then it was fast forward in COVID when I found myself really re-engaging with the sport of swimming. I was at a crossroads in life where I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I'd been working hard as an accountant, was good at it, but didn't really think it was my passion and something that I truly loved doing. I'd taken a career break after finishing my CA, and it started off with gentle swims down in the water during lockdown in COVID. I reconnected with an old friend and mentor of mine, a gentleman by the name of Martin Smoothy, and he just encouraged me to get into the water as a means of staying active and healthy and being part of community. And I just fell in love with it again, Lee. I
Beautiful.
just completely fell in love with the sport. We talk about the physical benefits of it, the mental health benefits of it, just being immersed in the ocean and in the water, alone with your own thoughts, swimming along and the sun's coming up. Nothing beats it. And that, being able to do that with other people and share those moments, like you're in the water with them and you might not be saying a word, but there's a connection there as well. And the coffees afterwards, like all these little things were incredible. So I started getting into swimming a bit more. We started encouraging people we knew into the sport for life enrichment purposes, and we started coaching some adults to pursue unfulfilled goals. Those could be, being skilled up to do a triathlon or being more comfortable swimming in the ocean, all the way through to people that wanted to do Rottnest. And along the way, we were doing this for a few months, and along the way, Martin turned around to me and he just said, "You're telling all these people to go after their unfulfilled goals. When are you going to sit up and revisit some of your own?"
Whoa, Martin. So there's another one of those wonderful, intimate conversations. It's like, it's not a bollocking, but he's called you on it, which is beautiful, as you say.
He's called me on it, and it's our mutual friend Glenn Capelli, he calls them coincidental characters. These people in your life that all it takes is one conversation and it can change your path. And with him, that was one of them. You know,
Yeah.
I don't think I would have got back into the sport and doing what I was doing, what I'm doing now, if it hadn't been for him. So off the back of that conversation, I thought to myself, he's right. You know, here I am telling these people maybe I should focus on something I'd love to do. And uh, I did a bit of thinking. We live here in Western Australia. Open water swimming is a big thing in Perth, and the big event that happens here every year is the Rottnest Channel swim. So I made that my goal, and I said to myself, right, I'd love to train up for this, really get into the shape of my life, and see what I can do. See if I could put myself in a position where I might be able to contend and win this thing, win the 19.7 kilometer Rottnest Channel swim. And, you know, to many people, that was a pipe dream. I'd been out the sport properly for 4 years. I'd spent quite a bit of time drinking and partying and not really looking after my body. The Rottnest Channel swim's growing in stature over year after year, and there were probably around 3 or 4 guys of international caliber and on the Australian Dolphins team that were entered for it that year. But I made that my goal, and it wasn't necessarily about the result. It was more that journey that I wanted to apply myself, really come at it from a different angle where it wasn't about coming first or results. It was more about what can I do to get in the best possible shape, enjoy this journey with people that are important to me, and see what I can throw down. And I think that was a big thing, a big influencer on how that journey panned out, because I was coming at it from a place of enjoyment, not a place of pressure and focusing so much on the outcomes.
Yeah, beautiful, mate. Well, again, in the last few years, I've got more and more interested in yoga, meditation, the Eastern philosophy, and Buddhism, and of course, that's exactly what they talk about: is non-attachment to result, as you say, enjoying the process. And again, coming, and I get the funny feeling that probably in those early days, you were not so compassionate with yourself. Talking about Buddhism, you weren't so kind to yourself or compassionate with yourself in regard to if you didn't get the goal. You thought you'd be hard on yourself versus, you know, the Zen or the Kaizen approach. So let's talk about that. So you do that, and coincidentally, in not being so attached to the result, but enjoying the journey, the result was
a resounding win. So
you won. So you actually won, and you beat all the guys on the Australian team.
Yes. So, you know, we had about 10 months of preparation to get ready for the Rottnest Channel swim, coming from basically scratch up to this level. And, you know, I had a lot of incredible people helping me on my journey, helping me along the way to do that. You know, the guys at City of Perth Swimming Club, my coach Owen Carroll and Ryan Everenden, guys who really buoyed me up and made me believe in myself.
Right. Because I was about to say, what were some of the coaching conversations that you remember? And it mightn't even be a conversation, it might have been 1 or 2 sentences, things that those people did or said as coaches that helped you go to the next level and play at the level you played at that day when you swam to Rottnest. What did they say throughout the journey that helped you?
Well, we placed a big emphasis on quality over quantity. You know, I think the old mindset had always been work harder than everyone else. And we knew that we weren't going to be able to do that, but we could perhaps work smarter. You know, we didn't want to do these massive long distances. We wanted to hold a certain pace across to Rottnest. So that pace was 1 minute 12 per 100 meters. And so we would be practicing to make 1 minute 5 very comfortable, so that dropping back to 112 was a doddle, and you could do that until the cows came home. And, you know, trying to think outside the box with our training, you know,
Was a doddle.
I know it's a bit crazy, but we would do things. We didn't want to do massive mileage because I didn't have that base to come from. So we would, you know, mix things up. We would go to the gym beforehand and build up fatigue and then train, or such
Nice.
and such. So it was really, again, coming back to one of Glenn Capelli's philosophies, not just Kaizen with the little bit by little bit, but
Mm,
wide Zen is what he calls it. How can we do things differently? How can
mm,
we perhaps do things smarter?
mm,
Hard work will always get you somewhere. Smart work will take you further. So
mm,
that was really what we built things around. And we just focused on what we could control. you
mm,
know we had set this goal, and yes, it would be lovely to come away with a win, but we can't control what's going to happen out there. We can't control who's entered, and all these guys that are on the Australian team. We
mm,
can't control the conditions out there. If we get out into the Rottnest Channel and the weather is terrible, that's we can't do anything about it, but we can control our preparation and our thought
mm,
we can control our preparation, our planning, and our thought process all the way up to the start line, and be as ready as possible, so that on the day we just turn up and we execute.
mm. Yep. So I'm just, if you compare the Andy Donaldson of that Rottnest time, or even now, with the Andy Donaldson of 2013-14, looking to be at the Commonwealth Games, what's the difference?
The main one would be belief.
Yeah, beautiful. Mm,
The main one would be belief. And I say that because I think, like everyone, with age comes wisdom, or it should be.
mm,
With age comes
mm,
wisdom.
mm,
But I look at things, and I'm not just believing in myself, but I believe in the team around me. I
mm,
recognize the importance of the support team, and those around you. And, yes, your coach and your teammates, but also the wider inner circle, like your family and your closest friends, who really create that supportive environment
mm,
and are
mm,
there every step of the way with you as you
mm,
pursue your goals. It's just so important to have that.
mm,
And they keep you accountable. Like the conversation at Christmas time from my sister, they pick you up when you're feeling a bit down. If you're feeling you're having an off day, which is going to happen, they're going to be the ones that are that safety net to say, no, let's keep going. Just do what you can. You might not feel your best, but you can give it your best. That
mm,
sort of thing.
mm, mm,
I believe in myself, but I believe in the system and the environment that I've created around me
mm,
to
mm.
help me achieve my goals.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. We say there's a great principle I came across years ago. A French proverb says, "The forest shapes the tree." And so the
Oh,
environment,
wow.
it's beautiful, isn't it? The
Wow,
forest
that's a
shapes.
cracker.
It is, mate. That's what I say. That's a t-shirt. I'm going to build a business over Christmas called That's a T-shirt, because there's so many great principles that I get from these podcasts or other places. Like, that's too good just to be some words. That's got to be,
Yeah.
if you
Yeah,
can't,
100%.
you can either tattoo it on yourself or get a t-shirt. But the forest shapes the tree. And so that's what, again, in our water polo club, and the same with our pod squad, there's this, we call it the ecosystem of positivity, and
Yeah.
it catches on, the language and words. And so there, so then you did so well in that. Right. So then what, the next step, talking about Kaizen or wide Zen, what got you to go, I'm going to go even further. And why don't we just jump to the Instagram page and start to talk about some of all of these incredible swims that you've seen. What's this? I like this one, mate. What's this? What does 112 per 100 look like for 45K? Well,
So I'll explain that. So in September, I was in New York swimming around Manhattan Island. So that's a 45-kilometer swim.
yeah.
And I was holding 112 pace, with the currents made it 46 seconds per 100-meter pace.
My goodness.
And I got around the island in 5 hours and 42 minutes, or
You
five
broke the
hours and
record, didn't
41
you?
minutes,
You got the record from what I recall.
breaking the world record. So Yeah,
Wow.
that was some experience. And it's the Manhattan Island swim is one of the many swims that I've gone on to do ever since Rottnest.
Well,
So
what got you to what talking about that? What got you? Because there was the year, a year or two ago, where you did all major. Was it what do they call it? The seven. So
the
Rottnest was one, but what were all the others you did in that year? And by the way, I want to get to what was the trigger that got you to do that? To say I'm going to forget just going swimming to Rotto. Uh, let's do all major swims. What are they called? Name them for me. What are they?
the Ocean Seven. So yes, the Ocean Seven is a marathon swimming challenge comprised of the world's seven toughest channel swims. It's things like the English Channel, the North Channel between Ireland and Scotland, Spain to Morocco, between the two islands of New Zealand, the Cook Strait, Catalina Channel, which is in Los Angeles, the Suguru Strait, which is in Japan, between two of the islands, and the Molokai Channel out in Hawaii. They're
Wow.
all marathon distance, so they range from 15 kilometers up to 45. They're all swims in different testing conditions around the world. So some are in hot places like Hawaii, some are in less hot places like Ireland to Scotland.
Yeah.
And you're not wearing a wetsuit for any of these. They're all done under the traditional marathon swimming rules.
Man, so but just on that, what's the water temperature swimming Ireland to Scotland?
Oh, it's brisk. It would be around 12 degrees.
Ooh,
So, if you think of your conventional swimming pool, it's probably around 26.
yeah.
A bath is maybe 30 degrees. A plunge pool would be around 8 degrees, I'd say, like one of those ice baths. So like
Yeah, which
you're
people
down,
spend, yeah.
yeah, 30 seconds in,
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
and so yeah,
Wow.
no wetsuits for this. You're simply in your budgie smugglers, and it's very traditional. It's supposed to be the purest form of the sport.
No,
Going
other
from
than swimming nude, that's right.
other
You
than
can't get less clothes than that.
exactly, and you swim from A to B on the day that you're given, and whatever happens with the conditions, you have to find a way to navigate them. So what you can see on the screen here, that's the Suguru Strait, and we had a shocker of a day for
There's a bit of
conditions.
chop going on there.
That was like a washing machine.
And
I was getting thrown
but how
around.
far's that one? How far's that one?
Well, that one was 20 kilometers,
Oh
but
my God, swimming 20K in that chop.
to give you an idea, so Rottnest Channel swims 20 Ks. Rottnest Channel swim took me 4 hours and 4 minutes. This one took me 13 hours.
What? So
13
it's chop
hours.
and current then. There's no doubt about
Chop,
that.
chop, and a side current of 8 kilometers an hour. So,
Oh my goodness.
you know, for me, and I will get there explaining how this all came about, but these swims, there's so many factors involved that are outside of your control. And for me, it's like it's an incredible analogy for life. You
Yes.
go in, you set these goals, you're trying to get from here to here. You go in with your best intention and your best foot forward. You've planned and prepared as best as you can, but whatever happens out there, you're in the thick of it and you have to deal
Mm,
with it. You
mm.
have to find ways to adapt and be resilient enough to keep moving forward. So
Well, here you are, you've said it here. The struggle you're in today builds the strength you need for tomorrow. In life, true growth happens outside the comfort zone. And when times get tough, it's about finding those ways to keep moving forward. For me, I focus on remembering my why, the jet fuel driving the journey, breaking my challenges down into small, manageable chunks, reminding myself I'm never truly alone out there. And so that kind of starts to tap in on uh, your why. Let's talk about your why, and let's talk about the mission in and around mental health and building mental strength and so on. That's part of your why. So let's talk a little bit about that why, Andy.
yeah, of course. So the reason the Ocean Seven came about was really off the back of the Rottnest Channel swim. So
Yep.
this Rottnest Channel swim was a big turning point in my own life. I'd gone and done this swim. I'd won it against incredible competition. So that signaled to me, I'm not bad at this stuff.
Yeah.
B, I recognized there was still this hunger to go on and do more. I still felt I had more to give in the sport and more potential that could be realized. And C, we'd raised $12,000 for a mental health charity here in Western Australia called the Guy Eardley Foundation. They do fantastic work running workshops in schools all around the state around mental health, emotional intelligence, and all these tools that are great for kids that help set them up for life.
Yeah.
So I saw all this and I thought, maybe I can do more in marathon swimming and combine all of these things together. I can do swim challenges that that are exciting for me and align with my personal goals in this pursuit of reaching my potential. But I can inject purpose into this as well and do them for something bigger than myself. Maybe share the lessons that I learn along the way and these messages that could maybe inspire other people to pursue their goals. And raise money for mental health. This is something that's very close to my heart. The issue of mental health.
Yeah.
I've known a lot of good people that have had their struggles. I've had my struggles as well, and swimming was something that really saved me in the community that comes with the sport. It's just so important. So I thought, well, what can I do that encapsulates all of this? And so I was doing my research and I was reading up on the English Channel, and I remember seeing this thing, the Ocean 7, this challenge, and I was doing my homework and I was reading what the records were and who had done it. At that point, there maybe had been about 23 people in the world that had done all 7, and many who were trying to do it. And I thought, well, why not have a crack at trying to do this all in the space of a year? No one had ever done that before. So try do it in a year.
Yeah.
Let's try take out as many records as possible along the way, raise as much money as possible for mental health, for charity, and see if I could break a record for the fastest cumulative time of all 7 swims.
Right.
So that was my goals, and I set out to do that in 2022, starting with the English Channel. And really, I was very green in the space. I didn't really know what I was doing. I had no idea what was involved. I'd set this goal that was pretty much as extreme and as high as it gets. But I think we sometimes need that naivety in life to go off and try do these things. That sort of excitement and sense of wonder and taking that leap of faith and learning as you do it. You can't learn to drive a car without actually getting behind the wheel and going. This was the same. And so I did my homework. I spoke to as many people as possible, and I got stuck in. And it was very much a build the plane in the sky type of challenge.
Wow. So what ended up happening in terms of the cumulative time? How did you go with that?
So the cumulative time was a success. So overall, over these 7 swims, which equated to around 200 kilometers, the cumulative world record was 63 hours, and I think I did it in 62. So it really came down to the wire, and managed to swim all 7 of these within the space of a year as well, which, again, there was a lot of, the swims were one thing, they were very testing. The logistics of it all was incredibly tough. Financing all of these swims, it costs about $10,000 per swim.
Yeah.
So I basically took almost a year out of work to focus on this. I was wearing a lot of hats at that time to make this challenge as big as possible and really try get the reach and messages out there and impact as many people as possible and take them along with me on this journey of hope and the pursuit of dreams, and we were able to do that, which was really good.
Well, as you say, I'm making some great notes here, mate, that when you hear them back, there's so much gold in what you're saying here. When you say, so raise it, well, first of all, you say $10,000 to swim, so there's 70 grand you have to raise straight away. So as you say, one, you're training, two, you're going to do the swims. There's the operational logistics of boats and teams, and then there's the fundraising. So there's a whole lot of stuff going on. So A, who are some of the key people helping you do that? And two, what have you learnt in this journey about people, life, success, organisation? Share those things.
Ooh. So the starting point was to get a team, and you're absolutely right, Lee. Like, these things, when they're so big, they're very difficult or almost impossible to try take on yourself. So, I had my core team here. Jay Prashal was perhaps the most important member of that team. He came with me to 6 of the 7 swims. He was on every single boat as my handler, keeping me fed and encouraged. Travel with me, so I wasn't alone with stuck in my own thoughts and playing out every worst case scenario in my head alone. He was a major part of it. My coaches, Ryan Everenden and Owen Carroll, my sports chiropractor, Kirsty Balombra, the people that I consulted with that were really helping to shape the journey, guys like Jason Ryan, Rhonda Parker. These guys, I couldn't have gone on that journey without them. No. They really helped me make this journey not just possible, but help it realize its potential as well. And of course, family as well. Keeping you grounded, keeping you supported and encouraged. Doing these swims, it's a nerve-wracking thing, and I know they were worrying every time I was out there in the water. So I put them through a fair bit, and obviously I'm very grateful that they were with me on that journey too. So yeah, I would say, these things, they are huge undertakings. They absolutely require a team, not just anyone. It needs to be people that align with your values and that believe in the goal, believe in the vision that you've set out. When I say values, I'll give you a simple one. We'd set out to try do these swims all in the space of a year, and safety is one of our values. We could have pushed on through really terrible conditions and compromised safety, and it took the whole team understanding what those values were so that the right decisions could be made out in the water. I should take a bit of a step back. Every swim, we always had a local support team on the ground as well. So we had this core support team here in Perth. And then at every location, whether it was England, Hawaii, Japan, we would have a skipper that knows the waters and could navigate. Because you as the swimmer, you can't really see anything. You need someone that's...
Oh no, you need the trust of the skipper, absolutely.
They know those waters, they know the currents, they know how to navigate from here to there. So they're so important, and getting the right people there is essential. So you have that support team in every place around the world. So it gives you an idea of just the scale of the logistics involved. You had to organize accommodation in each place and get the team on the ground in each location. And we were trying to do this all in the space of a year and raise money for charity and try promote what we were doing. Every single my emails, it was like a full-time job trying to make this as big as possible, and no one was paid during this. Everyone was doing it out of their own back. I had people, it wasn't without trying. I was doing my best to try get some sponsors to come on board and see the potential in it. unfortunately, that never came to fruition. And there were people that said to me, I'm going to hook you up with this person, and you're not going to have to pay a single dollar out of your own pocket. And that's a tricky thing as well, because you get excited, but then do you sort of fully rely on that or not? Thankfully, I didn't, and I had other options, and I'd saved up money, so it wasn't fully dependent on that. But yeah, it taught me a lot of things, that journey, and I had a lot of tough moments and sleepless nights, that's for sure. Thinking that I'd bitten off more than I could chew. There was one stage where I think I had to make my money last for an entire year. I was bunking in backpackers at some point, like before my world record swimming across the Cook Strait. I was sleeping in a 16-man dorm at the local backpackers. And it's people don't quite understand. Like, they're thinking, here's Andy Donaldson. He's this elite athlete that is the fastest ultramarathon swimmer in the world, and he's
in a backpacker lodge with 15 other people in
15
bunks.
other people, and it was something else, And one of my hardest moments on that year. We could talk about the swims. I think there's going to be a lot of interesting things, but from a logistical perspective, one of the hardest moments of the year was I actually depleted all my savings right down to about $700.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
And I had $700 in my bank account in July of 2023, and I still had 2 swims to pay for. I had rent coming up. The small business that I'm a part owner of was going through financial issues, and they were asking for money from me. And I just completely crashed. I was so stressed. And I'd gone through this journey trying not to ask people for money from my friends or family to fuel this journey, because this was something I chose to do. If I was taking money, I wanted it to go to the charity. But at that point, I had to. It was my sister again. She convinced me. She said, "Like, if you keep doing this, you're not going to make it, and you're going to crash. Like, you need to. It's okay to ask for help. I can help you. Let's put up a little crowdfunder and see what happens." And the generosity of people.
Yes.
It just completely blew me away. It completely blew me away. Like, people were donating, $500 here and $100 there. One gentleman from over in Sydney sent through $5,000, and they didn't realize just how much of a difference this made in that moment. And I'll always be grateful for that. But I think the key lesson there was, you don't always have to go it alone. You can stick your hand up and ask for help. And it was coming from a genuine place of, you tried everything else. It wasn't like I was, started off like this and going for a free handout. I tried so hard to get sponsors on board early. I tried everything I could do. This was the last resort, and they ultimately saved this challenging journey and made it possible, and went on and completed it. So
that's a great thank you for sharing that vulnerable moment. I've written it down as the $700 moment. But again, your sister had the conversation, mate, ask for help.
Yeah.
Put your hand up. And the crowdfunder, again, this is a belief. I mean, there's just when you're talking about, and this is part of leading your best life is not only about people leading their best lives in terms of sport and life, but particularly around business, and money is an important part of that. And the fact that you're a chartered accountant, at one level, you understand the measurement of money at least, but the psychology around, and that when you talked about belief in yourself as a swimmer, then there becomes the belief in how do you go about raising money. And even Barack Obama talks about you got to work the phones. You have to, I'm not saying you personally, but asking, mate, we need your help. Now, the fact of the matter is, the guy that gave $5,000 may well be a multi-millionaire, and 5,000 is like $20 to him.
A drop in the ocean, yeah.
And not only that, people with, let's say a person's 75 years of age or 80, they're sitting on 50 or 20 million or 100 million, goes, I'm going to die with this. I want to do something good with it. So in fact, giving you $5,000 is like someone else giving you $5 or $10. And what that does in terms of him feeling good about himself, so from our psychological relationship around money and asking for money and feeling okay about that, going, there's actually a value exchange here. This guy is going to now follow you on Instagram. He's going to tell his mates. It's going to make him feel good. And it might also inspire him to go, you know what? I've given him $5,000. I'm going to go down the pool and start swimming myself. You don't know what impact that has, but letting go of that belief of I'm taking money out of people's pockets, or it's what we say in business. Literally, in one of the podcasts the other day, one of the guys talked about an experiment he did with his client where he said, look, just I think the product they were selling was $90. He said, I want you to ask $98 and see what happens with all new customers. And well, people will say no. Anyway, 2 weeks later, he comes back to the guy, okay, you asked, how many people did you ask $98 for? He says, well, everyone. What happened? They all bought.
Yeah.
So we say often the price or money is a bigger issue in the mind of the seller than the mind of the buyer.
Than the purchaser. Yeah. Wow.
You know?
Wow. And it's that perspective, isn't it? Like in your head, you're worrying about this, but to them, it's
right. That's right. We'll see. When I did the Swim for Empowerment, because I raised money for 3 charities when I swim to Rotto, there are mates of mine who are multi-millionaires. And they chuck in $500. Like to them, $500 is $10 to you and I, and they feel good about it, So I had to overcome that. Now, of course, you're talking thousands and thousands. So let's just talk about the 7 swims, the Ocean 7. Give me the happy ending story. How much you had to raise? At least 70 grand just to enter the thing, let alone all the logistic. What did you end up doing? How much were you able to raise for charity in the end?
So we raised $50,000 for mental health,
fantastic
research. So it was this incredible journey, where we'd successfully swum all of these channels, which in the first attempt for each of them, which is not an easy thing to do, given Absolutely. All of the challenges and things that you have to navigate. We did it all in the space of a year. We'd raised all this money for charity. And I think perhaps one of the best outcomes of it was the impact on other people.
Yes.
Inspiring people to pursue their dreams, showing people these things are possible. Demonstrating that sport and purpose can be combined, that you can support the things important to you and do it using sport as the platform or the the method of communication. And so I'm just one person, but when you have this, you throw the rock into the ocean and it has the ripple effect. I think that's the greatest outcome of all of this. What other people will go on to do and to see this building from this one achievement that so many people contributed to.
Yep.
And seeing where it goes from there.
Yeah. I mean, look, you're doing it on a much bigger scale, but I know a mate of mine in Bendigo says to me, Lee, you inspired me to do all these ocean swims in Victoria last year because I see you on Facebook doing your training each day. And I went, of course, that's not my intention at all. But if that, as you say, if that's the ripple it creates, you activate others to do the same. It's like Marianne Williamson's wonderful piece where she talks about you shining your light gives others permission to shine their light. You know, it's a beautiful quote, that. So, is there anything you'd like to mention about those swims? Because you touched on it before, that you said there's interesting points that came along the way. Did you want to mention any of the actual items? I mean, that's just the Ocean's 7. You've since done, as you say, you've done Manhattan again. You've done the Rottnest telethon swim, and then you're getting on a plane to go and do something in Dubai or something in the Middle East. I just saw pictures before of you at the pyramids. What swim was that? I mean, that's beyond the Ocean 7. What was all that?
That recent one was going overseas to Egypt and being an ambassador at a swim event there.
Okay.
And I like to be engaged in the community and try inspire other people to get into swimming. Swimming's a really high growth sport in that part of the world, and as you can see below, I was taking a bit of time to be a tourist as well and enjoy the journey, because if you don't do that, it's really, it'd be a crime not to. So drawing back to the Ocean 7 and these swims, each of them taught a lesson. The English Channel, how it works is you get a window of days, 7 days, and you don't exactly know when you're going, and it's a bit of a roller coaster. They call it the Dover coaster. So you're sitting there. Mm-hmm. Imagine the equivalent of going bungee jumping and standing at the top of the platform, but not knowing in the next 7 days when you're going to go. Like that's in a sense the comparison you can make, and you get a text message that gives you about 5 hours notice before you go. So learning to be at peace with that, to be ready and prepared, ready to go if you got the call up, not worrying, focusing on what you can control. That was a real great lesson from that. Swimming from Ireland to Scotland, got incredibly cold during that swim. I was absolutely freezing. I think it was about 13 degrees. And I was at a place where we weren't even a third of the way into this swim, and my mind is just spiraling down. I'm just getting so cold and heavy, and I'm thinking to myself, I just can't do this. Like, I've got 5 minutes left in me, never mind 5 hours. I've never been struggling so early into a swim before like that. And, similar to what we were describing about asking for money, I was trying to do it myself. I was trying to use all these tools that I'd used before that had worked, my visualization or self-positive talk or slow breathing, and none of it was working. And that swim really taught me that, geez, you're not out there alone. I use the team, let the team know what's going on, let them know that you need help. And I did. I shouted up and said to them, I was like, look, I'm swimming along between breaths, support team are up in the boat, and I'm like, arms are heavy, feeling cold, but energy's good. And they're laughing. And, as a team, we worked together to address that. And I remember feeling this weight coming off my shoulders and remembering that the team's there by my side, and we changed the feed so that it heated up and I could get my core body temperature rising again, and we picked things up and came from this position of being in dire straits to almost breaking the world record in that one there.
Oh my goodness, what a great story.
4 minutes over. So, like, every swim taught something.
Every swim taught something. Yeah,
every swim taught something. I could continue. Cook Strait, we had a cyclone hit the country before my swim, and I was watching on the news as the Inter-Islander ferry lost power because the conditions were so bad.
Oh no!
And swept, and almost got swept into the side of into the rocks, and was 15 minutes away from calling Mayday. And I'm sitting there in Wellington watching this all unfold, and just thinking to myself, like, geez, like, if a boat can't do this, like, how am I supposed to do this? And
you're right.
That was a great lesson in just trying not to listen to the external noise. And that was a swim that we chose to swim at nighttime during something called a spring tide, which is when there's more powerful currents. And I had so many people telling me it couldn't be done. So many people
Yeah,
saying,
right.
no one's ever swum in a spring tide. You're not going to even get 5 kilometers off the coast without getting swept back. Telling me all these horror stories. Don't do it. This is risky. It's dangerous. But we went on and we did it. We did our homework. We backed ourselves. We did our due diligence and went on and broke the world record in that one.
Mate, what a good story. So I assume the skipper said, mate, I think that's the best time to do it. I mean, the skipper was, yeah. Whereas the locals who didn't know, as you say, the external noise.
The external noise. And so, each of these swims taught something like that. You go into these and you learn lessons that you never planned to learn.
Beautiful.
You go into these and you learn lessons that you never planned to learn. And it's all stuff that's applicable to life. It's all stuff that's applicable to the journey, because it's the same thing. We are trying in life to go from here to here. We're going in with our best foot forward and what we think is best. But when we encounter adversity, which you will do in life, how do you react in those moments? How do you respond? Are you equipped out? Have you planned it out? Have you thought this through and gone through the what ifs? Do you have the answers, or are you going to be put in those situations where the only way you can learn is learn by doing? That happened in many of these channel swims. You can prepare as much as you want for the distance. You can prepare to swim at nighttime. You can prepare to swim in the cold. You can get yourself used to rough conditions, but nothing can prepare you for your boat breaking down. Nothing can prepare you for encountering a head-on current and getting pushed backwards for the next 2 hours. Nothing can prepare you for seeing a shark. I've seen 3 in my swimming career mid-swim. So, some things, yes, you can. You do the best as you can, but sometimes you just have to learn by doing.
Learn by doing, as you say, how you choose to react and respond, as in how do I stay calm? Like seeing a shark. Where were the sharks?
All in Hawaii.
Yeah, right. Okay. All right. Okay. Right. In that nice warm waters of Hawaii. But so just let's deal with that. How did you stay calm with that one?
Well, that one.
Or deal with it.
It was an interesting one. So we identified that could be a major risk. The way I approach my swims, I'm still very much an accountant. I have a spreadsheet of all these possible things that could go wrong.
Yeah.
All these challenges that I might encounter, the likelihood and the impact of them. But perhaps most importantly, I have my risk mitigation strategies. What do I do if I overheat? What do I do if I'm feeling sick? What do I do if I'm getting cold? Plan all these things out, communicate them with the team so that we know what to do if these things happen. One of the things that you identify is shark, but if you climb out of the water, that's your swim done. You're not allowed to get back in.
No.
Most of the time, you touch the boat, that's your swim done. So we had taken preventative measures by using shark shields. So these cables that are in the water that emit a frequency that drives away the sharks. And in that situation, it was the Molokai Channel. I was swimming along at nighttime, and I'd been joined by dolphins earlier in the swim, which is a really magical experience. Still terrifying, but very,
seeing
very
black shapes coming out near you in the night. Yeah.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, exactly. But they were darting around and playing and screeching. It was something else.
They're going, "What are you doing out here? What the hell are you doing here? Yeah.
What is this guy doing?" So a little bit later into that swim, it was nighttime. So the Molokai Channel is a 45-kilometer stretch from the island of Molokai to Oahu, and it's in the middle of the Pacific. So you're pin drop in the ocean. And this would have been just after midnight, I think. And I was swimming along, could hardly see the end of my fingertips. But I noticed this shape under the water. I noticed this shape under the water starting to stalk. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, the dolphins are back.
Yeah, that's optimistic. I like that.
The dolphins are back. So, any second now I'll hear those dolphin screeches and, 5 seconds passes, 10 seconds passes, 15 seconds passes. I'm like, that's not a dolphin. That's a shark. My heart just sinks. And, like we were saying, you don't really know until you're faced with that, how you're going to react or respond. And for me, I was doing everything in my power not to react. I was doing everything in my power not to react. You think of the word react, it has connotations with knee-jerk reaction. It entails a lot of emotion, and in a situation like that, it would be fear, panic, all of these things that a shark can likely pick up on and thinks to itself, "Oh, that's prey." Whereas if you take your time and respond, so react and respond. If you respond, it's got more control to it, more thought behind it, and it's more calm. And that's what I wanted to try be. So I saw this thing and I was fighting all my urges to react. And I thought, right, I remember that my kayaker's over here and he's got his shark shields in the water. I'm going to swim over calmly to the kayaker and just stay right beside the kayaker and basically hug the kayaker and see what happens. So I'm doing that. I get right up beside the kayaker. And remember, this is like midnight. So right up beside the kayaker, and he starts paddling off. And I think he thinks I'm like swimming. He thinks I'm swimming off course, so he's trying to create space. And I'm like, no,
flap in the water. The very opposite.
Like, no, you just stay here. You just stay here beside me. Just stay beside the kayaker. And I don't know how long it could have been. Like, it might have been 10 seconds. It might have been a minute. It might have been 5 minutes. But anyway, waited as calmly as possible until this thing moved on. But it's just, wow. It's one of those things. Like, you go in with your best foot forward, and you have to learn by doing. You don't really know what's going to happen until it happens to you.
No, as you say, the difference between reacting and panicking. I literally saw a video the other day of people, the divers, saying the last thing you want to be doing is flapping around and panicking because the shark thinks that's an injured animal. Versus I've seen divers where the shark's coming up and they literally push it on the nose and redirect it. Yeah. Just unbelievable. Because again, the point is they're not always hunting. They're just swimming around and they're actually looking and waiting for something to be flapping around as a signal to have a crack at.
Well, that's it. And I think there's this misconception around them that they're these mindless sort of predators that are just always out there.
They'll eat everything, yeah.
But that's not the case. This thing was showing no signs of or sort of irrational movements or jerky movements. It was just probably up there just checking in, like the dolphins, like you mentioned, thinking to itself, like, what is this guy doing out here in the middle of the ocean, in the middle of nowhere?
This is abnormal. Talk to me about this big swim around the big island of Hawaii you went on. It was an international event, I understand. Was it being filmed or not filmed? What was going on there? What was all that about, that big event you did earlier in the year?
So one of the big swims of this year was an event called Epic Swim Maui. And it was put together by some local surfers or ex-surfers in Maui that are very passionate about the ocean, passionate about swimming and sea sport as being this incredible way to bring people together behind a united cause. So they invited 14 of the world's best ultramarathon swimmers to the island of Maui to swim 220 kilometers around the island over the course of 2 weeks. And so we did this. It was a swim that was backed by the United Nations as part of their Oceans Decade. In addition to the swimmers, there were scientists who had been invited to do testing as we swam around the island. So testing for microplastics pollution, checking water quality, all these different things.
I'm just bringing it up on Instagram now to some of the...
So you had the scientists, you had government officials, cultural leaders who were sharing about the culture in Hawaii. There's this harmony between land and the ocean and life. They are very sustainably focused and think 7 generations into the future with their actions.
Beautiful.
So all of these incredible people brought together by this challenge, and it was filmed for a documentary that they want to put out to Netflix, sharing these stories, sharing why the ocean's so important to all of us, sharing the issues, but also talking about the future and what we can learn from Hawaiian culture, what we can learn from the scientists, and how we can all be a bit more mindful and change our behavior to preserve our oceans for decades and generations to come. So this is the first of an annual expedition swim series. We did the 220 kilometers over, I think, 14 swims. And so it was a really special month that we were out there in Hawaii doing these swims together, learning from each other, learning about Hawaiian water culture, meeting these incredible people, and hopefully starting this movement and this incredible platform that is the Epic Swim Series, and things that will continue in years to come. So Hawaii, Maui was the starting place. The goal of Epic Swim is to continue doing these types of swims, bringing people together in areas around the world where there is an issue that needs to be brought up onto the international stage, and using swimming as that platform to do it.
Wow. Look, and these pictures are just beautiful. So the TV show is going to be fantastic. They're just, man, beautiful, beautiful. Just coming back to a couple of things. One, when you're in that cold water, were you drinking warm water? One of my mates put me onto this for my first solo, because again, I've got such low body fat. And he said the mistake his mates made on the boat was keeping the water on ice, and he was wondering why he was getting so cold. So I learnt drink lukewarm water, or drink warm water. In fact, it's a bit of Gatorade with one of those energy packs. What were you doing to keep your core temperature up? I'm asking that for selfish reasons, in case I could pick up more tips. What were you doing to keep your what were you doing to keep, as you say, eating regularly is an important thing, which I do. But what were you doing in terms of fluid, in terms of keeping core temperature up?
Yeah, you're absolutely spot on, Lee. And what I'll do actually, whilst you're at that screen, if you go to my Instagram,
yep,
I'll show. We'll show people how these feeds actually work. So that top center one, if you click on that
one here,
the one above it,
this one here, oh yep.
So this is how we feed when we're out in one of these channel swims. So the boat's going along. You got the support team there.
He's just put a sign up. He put something up there. What was he saying on the sign?
Feed's coming.
Oh, okay. You're laying on your back. You do one backstroke. And what was that just went in your mouth?
So that's a feed. So it could be some kind of carb mixture. It could be water and an energy gel. It could be flat Coca-Cola. It could be Milo. Whatever it is, we cycle through.
You're doing one backstroke. I mean, in my case, I'm stopping for 30 seconds or a minute. Once I worked it out, but there's probably 20 minutes or more, probably 20 to 30 minutes I'm wasting in a Rottnest swim on feeds and just mucking around. Yeah.
Well, that's the feeding and the fueling is so important. We just like a marathon runner needs to stay hydrated, the swimmer's the same. Or you need your fuel in your car. But for us, we're doing it quite frequently. So
how frequently would you feed?
So I'm feeding every 15 minutes,
right,
or every 20 minutes. It's depending on the situation. Aiming for around 100 grams of carbs an hour.
Oh, okay.
I'm taking it all in using liquids.
Right. So you're not doing any solid stuff. I use baby food from Aldi. I've got banana custard, and I've got a range of baby foods that I squeeze down quickly.
Yeah, I mean, it's a personal preference. Like, I think as long as you know what you're trying to do, like for me, I'm trying to get 100 grams of carbs in an hour.
Yeah.
I do that using liquids because it's easier in the gut, and I find it easier to deliver as well. It means I don't have to stop, chomp down, a banana or whatever it is. I can take it in liquid form. I can take it in a bottle. The guys can reel it in. You saw the bottle's attached to a rope, so the guys can reel it in, so we're not leaving no trace. It's easy on the gut, and we can heat those feeds up. So that was a question you were asking. We can heat those.
So you are heating them up. Yeah, good thinking. So that you get that temperature that helps with the core temp.
Well, if you think of your body temperature, which is mid-30s, you're often swimming in something a lot lower. So we want to make sure that body temperature isn't dropping too much. It doesn't matter where you are. If you're exposing yourself for hours and hours on end in something that's colder, your body temperature is going to come down. So
your heat exchange, you're going to lose heat, so you have to find a way to put heat back in.
Heat your core. Oh yeah, that's my nephew there, Jack. So yeah, you wanna heat up your core, and if you are taking in cold drinks, that's going straight into the system, lowering the body temperature.
Yeah.
You're going to have to expend more energy to heat yourself up again. So, energy conservation is a big thing too. And if you can help yourself, if you're not having to use as much to heat yourself up, then that can be applied to your swimming.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Andy, let me ask you a couple of questions here. If I was to say to you, what motivates Andy Donaldson in the year 2024? What are 2 or 3 key things that motivate and drive you?
I think for me, I split things into personal goals, career goals, altruistic goals. And so, the Ocean 7 was very altruistic. It was very much around personal goals as well, revisiting these unfulfilled dreams. And that was fantastic. I was able to do both of those. Now I'm looking ahead, and for me, I feel very content with those personal goals.
Yeah.
There's not many things in swimming that I would like to continue and do. There's maybe only a handful of swims that I think, but love to have a crack at that. I'm not too fussed about breaking records. I'm in the fortunate position to have achieved way more than I ever thought I could.
Yeah.
I'm now in this position where I have a platform. People know who I am in the swimming world. I have a voice, like everyone. We have a voice, and I'd love to use what I have in terms of my swimming and my platform to make a positive difference in this world. What can I do with my swimming that can inspire others? Can I support things like mental health? Can we leverage these challenges and make governmental change to incorporate mental health into the school curriculum and get more kids learning about stuff like that and emotional intelligence and getting equipped with the tools they need to navigate life's challenges? Can we make legislative change so that our oceans are more protected for future generations?
Yeah.
This is something that sport can do. Sport can bring people together. It brings all these people, like Epic Swim Out, brings all these people together behind a common cause and a challenge that can be used to elevate all these issues onto a bigger stage, a bigger platform, so that change can be made. All the great work that's been done, all the issues that are there, and the statistics and the research that shows that there's an issue. I see sport in my swimming as a communication platform. So, I'd love to use it for that, and obviously, make this a sustainable journey. As I learned from the Ocean 7, I can't do this at the detriment of myself. I've gone probably 4 years without a proper stable income. So, I for me, looking ahead to 2025, being able to financially support myself as well is going to be an important thing too. So,
yeah. So let's look at that. Let's look at the future for a minute now. If the future was going to unfold the way you'd like it to, so that you're doing these things around helping people, making a positive impact, but also developing a stable income. I see on your T-shirt you've got the AD brand. What might it look like if we were going to brainstorm the ideal future for Andy Donaldson and it be a good, stable income career? What might that look like?
it's a good question, Lee, and I'm truthfully speaking still figuring it out. It's been quite fluid. I see it in two different spheres. I see the swimming sphere and perhaps the business sphere.
Mm-hmm.
So from a swimming perspective, continuing to go on and do these challenges, maybe partner with organizations that are trying to do something or want to bring attention to a certain bit of work that they're doing, or projects or causes that they're supporting, and do swimming challenges for them. So say, for example, if there was an ocean conservation organization doing fantastic work out in the Pacific and they wanted a swimmer to go and swim around the island and generate some buzz around it and showcase the incredible work they're doing, then that could be something. Or any corporations that align with or that have ESR goals and feel that I could help support those, partnering with those organizations.
What's ESR? What's ESR?
Environmental social responsibility.
Right, environmental
goals.
social. Right, great. Yep.
If they wanted to do something different that maybe stands out, we've had the telethon swim. There was a lot of people watching what we did there, swimming from Rottnest to Elizabeth Quay. So those swimming challenges, trying to continue doing them, partnering with the right people along the way. That would be one side of things. The other side, the business side, I'd love to write a book about what I've been doing, about the lessons learned, the incredible things that I think might just help people with their own lives and hopefully inspire them to pursue their own dreams too. So that'd be one. Doing more speaking, sharing stories, sharing the learnings. I just came back from Edinburgh where I did a public speaking event there to a law firm. It is like we were talking about. There's a lot of parallels between these swims and the corporate world and life, and lessons that are transferable from here to there. So getting involved in and getting out there, being a bit more proactive with that too. And then finally, maybe building some form of swimming business myself, getting into coaching, maybe trying to share all these things that I've learned and do it in an online manner, perhaps, because then it's more accessible to people around the world. I was there in Egypt not long ago. Accessibility to skills and knowledge. I mean, I know we have incredible coaches here and incredible facilities here in Australia, but that's not the same all around the world. So how do we get more people into the sport? How do we make this knowledge and expertise a bit more accessible? Can we link coaches from there with swimmers from over here, for example, and create a marketplace where this knowledge is shared in an accessible manner, and encourage more people into the sport so that they can pursue their goals and enrich their lives through sport. So
yeah, brilliant, mate, brilliant. Well, first of all, we say all things are created twice. Stephen Covey says all things are created twice, first in the mind and then in the physical world. So here you are, that some of those things are in your mind, and so now it's about creating them in the physical world. And you're reminding me our pod squad at the weekend, we had 70 or 80 swimmers, people of all ages. Some mothers are bringing their kids down. There's a community there, and I think we had 2 or 3 inductions, because we have the induction circle on Saturday, and so we must have had 5 or 6 people inducted, and probably another 5 or 6 got their white caps for being, the 3 swims with the pod squad. So it's growing, and as you say, it's the swimming, it's the physical exercise itself, it's the connection with the community, and then it's the connection over the coffee afterwards. It's a very very healthy thing to do, the connection of all 3 of those things in terms of mental, physical health. Mate, is there anything we haven't spoken about before we move into the home straight? We've been going on pretty much almost an hour and a half now, so we better wind up. We can do another one at some other point down the track, but anything you'd like to talk about before we wind up today?
We've covered a lot of ground, and no, look, I've really enjoyed this conversation, Lee, so maybe when I've done a few more swims, then we go have another conversation around, or if you want to drill down into anything in specifically next time. But, I feel like we could just keep talking all day. So I know we shouldn't. So maybe we move on to the home straight, but no.
Well, because what I've done, I've got 5 pages of notes that I've got here. And I think what you're going to find is when you get this podcast, the transcript alone will set you up for a book. If you haven't got your chapter headings, then, or even key points, this podcast has got. Let me just start with some of the things in no particular order. The west coast of Scotland, the 200 freestyle, that never, as you said, life is not a straight line. You had a life of, you achieved every goal, including A level scores. All of a sudden you hit where it wasn't happening, and then this whole identity and feeling of failure, and the concept of lacking belief, but then years later finding how to get belief, the difference between lacking belief and finding belief in yourself, the whole concept of life enrichment. Glenn Capelli's not just Kaizen, small improvement, but wide Zen, working smarter. Some of those principles you talked about there with your coaches, working smart, knowing it's not about the quantity. And it reminds me of the guy that was coaching the British cycling team, where he was doing the principle of marginal gains.
The marginal gains, yeah.
Yes, exactly. The journey, where you got to the point of, I'm going to set a goal to get in the best shape possible, and getting clear on control the controllables. What is it? Don't focus on the things you can't control. And I love that, the smarting. Let's get used to training at 112 pace, or so that, what do you say, training at 1.5 pace, so that 112 becomes a doddle. When I did my 10K, one of the engineers, I just did my best and put my head down in the 10K. And one of the guys go, "My God, you were doing 130 pace for 10K at age 65 or 66,
That is incredible, though. That's fantastic.
I said, well, thanks for calculating. I had no idea. People were saying, "Lee, you're going well." I'm going, "Mate, just let me." The engineers had worked it out, but but you, when you've gone, I'm going 130, you're going 1.5. But of course, you're younger, fitter, you're handsomer, you got an accent, mate. The fact that you raised in the first instance, you raised, where was it? You raised 12 grand for mental health on one event, and then later on you raised 50 grand for mental health. Just fantastic, mate. And the ripple effect, as you say, you never know the ripple effect. And that piece, thank you, your sister. What's your sister's name?
Oh, Hannah.
Hannah. Thank you, Hannah. Hannah's not swimming with us now, is it? There's a Hannah from Scotland swimming in our pod squad that's just joined us. Maybe it's a different Hannah. It's not your sister, is it?
It would be a different one, but no, Hannah enjoys her swimming. She attempted Rottnest this year, but obviously was
the weather,
was blown out. But she's a bubbly character. I'll bring her down to Pod Squad.
Please do. And Hannah's played clearly an important role in your life. Have those conversations with you, and particularly the one, it's okay to ask for help. You put it on the internet, the crowdfunder, and as you know, people start giving 50, 100, 200, 5,000. It's just put it out into the universe and see what comes back. And that piece around not listening to that external noise, not listening to the it can't be done mob. it goes on, mate. It just goes the fastest cumulative time for the Ocean 7, just brilliant, let alone the Manhattan world record as well. There's no doubt there's got to be a book, mate. There's got to be a book. You're setting new goals. The epic swim Maui. I think that all of those leveraging these challenging sport as a platform for navigating life challenges, and at the same time exploring and protecting the ocean. And that piece around how to respond versus react. What a great lesson. That shark who wouldn't even remember that it's that shark. Now, the other point I made was swimming business. It reminds me of Colonel Tom Parker and even James Brown, the singer, saying that's why it's two words. There's the show and there's the business. You know, that's why show, business, swimming, business, getting both of those things working hand in hand synergistically, and just find more law firms like the one in Edinburgh, mate. So, mate, it's just been fantastic talking to you. Andy, one final question is, if you were able to talk to your 13-year-old self, what one or two or three tips would you give the 13-year-old Andy Donaldson, knowing now what you know now, having gone through all these magnificent journeys you've gone through? What would you say to that 13-year-old Andy Donaldson?
It's okay to fail.
It's okay to fail.
It's okay to fail. Every, they're all learning opportunities. It's okay to fail. Believe in yourself. It can be done. Find the team. Find your team. Get your support network around you. Don't be too hard on yourself. Enjoy the journey.
Beautiful, mate. Beautiful. Well, there's the summary chapter of the final chapter of your book, mate. So there's the skeleton right there to build that book around, and it's a lesson that we all need. All those points you've just made, mate. There's a career to build straight away there. It's been a pleasure doing this podcast with you, Andy, and we'll do more. With more that come down to Pod Squad more. If anything I can do in terms of being part of your team, let me know. You
are part of the team already.
Oh, that's great. Oh, well, thank you very much. I love what the Indians have this saying called namaste. Namaste, the light in me to the light in you. Andy, thank you so much, mate, and I'll see you again very soon.
Mate, I'll see you soon, and thank you again for having me. It's really enjoyable. Really
my pleasure, mate. My pleasure. See you soon.